Hello, and welcome to the Drawn Deeper podcast. I'm your host, Katherine Babcock, and I am here to tell you a little bit about me so you can get to know me as we journey together and learn about each other and the process of God calling us through the creative and the beauty and the art and all the good stuff. So, a little bit about me. I am a mother of 4 children and a wife. I've been married for 12 years, and my husband is a naval officer. My daughter is 14. She's my oldest. I have twin boys that are 10 and a younger son who is almost 7. So life is really busy. And I always, as a young child, knew I wanted to be an artist. That was very evident even in like grade 1. I remember doing a poem, I still actually have it, of an acronym of my name. And so my name starts with a K. So K is for Catherine and A is for artist. An artist is what I want to be. And so from a really young age, God had instilled that dream in me of being a creative. I honestly do believe we all have an element of creativity in us because we are a reflection of God, because we are created in his image. So our gifts that he gives us of creativity are our ability to kind of reflect back to him some of what he is in us. I don't know. I love that. Anyways, so art was always something that I drew a lot. Constantly was drawing elephants in particular was definitely my hyper fixation at that age. And I remember just learning everything I could and always drawing and always having something present. Well, fast forward, we're living in Ontario when I was a young child, and then my parents moved us all to Kamloops, BC when I was about 10, and it was a bit life-shattering for me. I really kind of lost my footing and didn't know which way was up, really, and I really, really struggled. And so I kind of fell off and kind of found my way into some not so great methods of coping with what to do. And though art was always prevalent in my journey, that was kind of a pivotal moment of when I didn't quite know how to deal with some things in my life as changes came. And so I kind of went through school, went through high school, had lots of art classes through high school. It's where I was introduced to photography, which I absolutely love. I remember loving the darkroom, and learning how to develop film was just so amazing. I had some great art teachers along the way. So fast forward through high school, and it was kind of like, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? I'm like, well, obviously an artist. That's what I'm definitely looking to be. So I was like, well, I'll go to art college. So I attended what was then called Alberta College of Art and Design, which is now Alberta University of the Arts in Calgary, Alberta. And I was there for a few years, but again, like struggling in the sense of what my direction was and where I was going. And at this time, I really didn't have the voice of God. I wasn't listening to him, even if he was talking to me. I was definitely charging my own chart for sure and doing my own thing. And so, long story short, while I was in university, I became pregnant with my daughter. And so I tell people, I'm like, I was majoring in painting and then switched to motherhood. And so that's kind of where a huge pivot in my life happened, and where actually I felt God calling me very, very much. I remember living the life that I was living, which is, with partying and doing all sorts of crazy stuff and calling out and being like, God, I don't want to stay here. I really don't want to be like this my whole life. And knowing that, in the end, it's not going to end well if I stayed on that path. And lo and behold, I became pregnant. I said, all right, this is my ability to pivot. And this is my opportunity to then make a different course for myself. And so that began that journey. So motherhood became something very different. So dropped out of art college. So then art definitely became something that hid in the back corner of my heart and my mind. And so I was raising my daughter on my own for the first little bit. And then I met my husband. Now, my husband and I have a whole other story we can get into another day. But long story short, we were high school sweethearts. And then I hated him for 10 years. And then God knew he needed to give me my daughter first so my heart could soften. And then we ended up reconnecting. And then within a year and a half, we were married. And then a few years later, my twins came. And so anyone that has twins knows that there's not a lot of time to create art or breathe or shower or sleep. And so it was a wild journey of trying to figure out, okay, who am I in this whole experience? How am I an artist? I mean, okay, rewind. I did get into quilting, actually. After I had my daughter, I got really sick. I was diagnosed with Graves. And so I ended up moving back into my parents' house, and my mother taught me to quilt. So I pivoted into the art world in the form of fibers, and that was amazing. And so I actually, at that time, what created the urge to quilt, which is kind of a tragedy in itself, is I had a friend pass away, and my daughter was 10 months at the time. So she was just a baby. And I remember being like, I can't imagine what her mother is going through. And I wanted to create something for her mom. And so I did. I made her a quilt. And because I felt like that was the medium that I could work in at that time. And so my mom taught me how to quilt, which was a beautiful bonding experience for us as well. And then I was able to gift this handmade present to my friend's mom. And it was so touching. She was very touched and it was very healing for me. And then I realized like, I love to make art for other people and I love to create beautiful things that kind of touch people in a really profoundly personal and loving way. And so that kind of became part of the journey. But again, when I had twins, my sewing room was taken over by cribs and, glider chairs and everything else. And so I had to kind of, again, pivot. Life is about pivoting. And so I pivoted and the sewing room kind of felt way. And, after I had my twins, I really suffered with postpartum depression and anxiety. And I remember one night in the middle of the night, I was just like, I had suppressed this part of me as a painter. Like I'm specifically love painting. And I remember in the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep. And my daughter, she was 4.5 at the time, had this little Fisher Price easel and finger paints. I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to get it out. And so I went downstairs and I painted with the nastiest hand paints ever. I was like, don't like finger paint, but it would just felt like, oh, I just needed to get it out. I needed to release. And I think art is such a beautiful form of an outlet. So that was the steps. And so all through this journey, like God was slowly kind of pulling the artist back out of me. And then, I kind of got, my PPA and my PPD under control. So my depression, anxiety was kind of simmering down. A few years in, like I had found a really good rhythm of, I thank God every day for my friend who was like, depression is really hard. I've been there. Turn to your Bible, read Ephesians, study it, and then exercise. And those are the two things that I did, and they did help me. That's not the case for everybody. I understand that. But for me, that is what I needed. And so I built this really good rhythm of exercising pretty much daily, and it really helped to kind of pull me out of that benefit. I became stronger, fitter, and then I got pregnant again. So that was really hard because that pregnancy, it did come as a bit of a surprise, but I also was kind of mad and I really struggled with that. And so not only had I had, postpartum depression, anxiety, now I had prenatal depression and I really, really struggled. And I thank God also for my husband because he looked at me, he's like, Katherine, like, you're an artist. You need to create. Like, why don't you go back to painting? And I was like, yeah, you're so right. And so like with him giving me that permission, it allowed me to kind of create space. And I remember in art college, I was like, oh, I'm an abstract painter. I'm just going to paint like modern stuff. And God has slowly revealed to me that I have a lot more there than I could offer. And so I kind of started in the abstract realm of kind of just moving color around and moving paint because I just needed to unstick the gears. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but I remember like just feeling like jammed, like stuck, like I need lubrication in these gears. I need to move. And so a lot of that happened through creativity and art. And so I just would just kind of hit the canvas with whatever and everything I had. And it became like an outpouring of my soul. And people reacted, people liked it. And so the husband looks at me and he goes, Kay, we have a lot of paintings in the house. Now you need to like get them out, sell them. I'm like, okay. And so like he gave me these little nudges all the way through. And that's when West Island Designs, which was my painting company, was kind of created and was born. So it was through all this struggle and this grief and this depression and anxiety that I found a way to channel that energy into something very positive and something beautiful. And so I was kind of doing West Island Designs for a while and like, raising kids. We were homeschooling all 4 of them at this point. And so it was a lot. It's a lot. And my husband's in the Navy, so he's in and out. We had deployment in there. We road trip for 2 months across Canada. We did lots of crazy things, but like art has always been this little part of me. But I mostly was painting just like sea life because living in Victoria, BC, it's not hard to find any type of, oh my gosh, inspiration around you. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So I was painting, seahorses and orca whales and octopuses. But I remember like feeling, God, how do you want me to use this? Because I was learning and growing in my faith more because I'd returned much to the faith because, again, my husband was great about being like, hey, like, we're Catholic. Like, what are we doing? Like, let's go back to church. And I was like, I don't want to. And again, God was so gentle and so slow and giving me the right husband, which was sometimes not so slow and gentle, but it was good and it's what I needed. And he led me back to him. And so I was kind of doing my painting practice. And then there's this women's retreat that happens on Vancouver Island through the Beloved Ministries. And they were put an artist call out to have somebody lead a paint night. And so my friend tagged me and be like, hey, you'd be great for this. Like, I've seen your paintings, you've led paint nights, like you should try. And I was like, okay. And so I messaged the coordinators. I'm like, hey, I'll be your artist. And they said, great. And it was at that retreat, it took place on Thetis Island, that I was like, okay, Lord, like there's something here. I'm feeling you calling my heart on something. Like, what do you want me to do? And so the paint night went well. And that retreat was really pivotal in my faith because to this point, I was kind of mad. I was mad at God about a lot of things. And I was just kind of like upset about life in general. And it was at that retreat that I was really able to kind of tease and work through that. They had an amazing priest there who was a great confessor, and he was so wonderful in his guidance. And it really started to heal that wound of like artistic identity, of, my identity as a daughter of the King of God, and it really started to heal those wounds and allow me to step into that truth of who I am as an artist and how I can glorify God through that. So each year, this retreat would then put on a paint night. So we had a prayerful painting afternoon, which I loved. It was so fun. We'll be doing it again this year. And so it will be, so what we would do is we'd kind of have a different theme. So the one there's two that we just did not long ago. And the one was fiat. So Mary's yes to the Holy Spirit and to be the mother of God. And so for that painting, we got stickers cut out with a cricket of Mary and a dove. And then people were encouraged to put them on the canvas and then paint over top and then peel them away. So Mary was in the middle of their painting. And it was oh my gosh, it was so rewarding and beautiful to be able to like orchestrate that. And I remember like hearing the women talk about it, about how like I haven't painted in so long, and it was so beautiful and it was so good how God was able to speak to them through art and through this painting. And I was like, oh Lord, like this is so good. Like lead me here, lead me to help others find you in this avenue. And so we did a couple of those. And I've been slowly learning how to paint faces, because that was the biggest hurdle for me when I was like, hey, God, like, I would love to glorify you, but I ain't painting Jesus because I don't know how to paint a face. Anyways, he has slowly been encouraging me, and I've been stepping out of my comfort zone, and I've been learning how to obviously learn again and about how to create. And so it has been this incredible journey. And it was through these retreats that I actually kind of got this nudge of the Holy Spirit to create the Drawn Journal, which is the companion to this podcast, because I had been exposed to the Bella Grace Journal, which my mother bought for me when I was postpartum with Jacob and just struggling, who's my youngest. And she was like, this is really beautiful. I think you would enjoy it. And I did. And I was like, I want this, but Catholic. I want this as Christian. I want God to be the center of this. And I want it to pull me deeper into love and relationship with him. And so that is kind of, the genesis of the Drawn Journal, was my own desire to have a tool and materials to work with to be able to draw closer to him. And I want that for other people, because having experienced, the retreats where I was able to watch women just flourish in this moment of beauty of their own creativity and loving God through that. And I loved it. And it was so good. And so, yeah, I want to keep doing that. And I love it. And so that is me in a long nutshell. But I'm so excited to be on this journey with you guys. I'm so excited to share my thoughts and other people and other artists, and just build this beautiful community around love and beauty and art and God. And it's going to be great. So thank you so much for, spending this time with me. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode. Bye.